Alright, this handout is essentially a physical version of the interactive. And it's kind of a matter of taste which one you go with. If I was alone, I'd probably do the interactive because it gives me the feedback. But if you're in groups, or you have students in small groups, it's a great one to do physically, on paper. Because what'll happen is you'll get some students who are Speedy Gonzales and they start just piling things onto the different cards. And it's kind of fun for the other students to keep track of the Speedy Gonzales because inevitably one of the Speedy Gonzales will create two cards that don't have a match, or maybe two cards that have two things in common. You can just use the same physical objects that you did in the first handout, and you should also use that first handout as well because you're going to end up with more than 4 cards here. The goal is not to know exactly how many cards you end up with or be definitive about that. We're just kind of exploring here and seeing what happens. Of course, if your students do that same thing where they have the same thing in common with every card, gently redirect them. Suggest that, again, that wouldn't make a particularly interesting card game. Have them make a third card that doesn't have the same thing in common as the first 2. And then after that, everything will be forced. And in fact, even though the problem sort of gets a lot harder, it gets a lot more interesting as well. In the case of either the interactive or the physical activity, this handout is really about exploring. For a systematic approach, we're going to wait to the next handout. So let them explore for a while, and we'll come back in a moment.